I'm Pat Murphy, Executive Director of the Community Solution, and we're focused on small local communities and the decentralization of the massive, complex, industrialized system we've developed since the war. Well, peak oil is definitely a threat because we are living a way of life that's unsustainable, and peak oil is going to force us to change that, and not on a time scale that we would pick. However, I think that peak oil can also be viewed as an opportunity because we've created a non-sustainable industrial system that isn't really satisfactory to anybody, man or beast. So we've gone down a direction, took a wrong turn somewhere around the 1940s or 50s, and now we're going to have to get back on whatever course that could have been. I think that my vision for what things look like in 30 years will probably be what things looked like for me personally in the 1950s when I was living in a small town in the Ozarks. At that time, the air was clean, the water was clean, and there were very, very strong community relationships. Since then, we've seemed to have sacrificed a lot of that clean air, clean water, and relationships for things like cars and television sets and big houses. So I see, to a certain extent, a return to that time, but not ideally to that time because that's impossible. For example, since that time, we've mastered all kinds of surgical procedures and diseases, and we've been able to educate the population on a very, very large scale. So those social improvements that we made during that period will be emphasized, and we'll be able to get back and do even a better job of developing that. I think the first thing we have to do is we have to overcome our phenomenal ignorance, both of energy and how the world works. What we created is a belief system, a belief in infinite growth, and a second belief system that material possessions is the #1 reason for being. This has led to severe cultural degradation on the second case. In the first case, it's not true. So the first step is to overcome our ignorance. When we've done that and we understand what to do next, and in particular this is true of America, each of us is going to have to take the responsibility of reducing his or her energy use. Currently, the United States uses 57.5 barrels of oil equivalent for energy versus the third world where 85% of the people are using about 7.5 barrels of energy equivalent. That's unsustainable, and that's also unethical and immoral. So Americans are going to have to take the brunt of this downsizing. Otherwise, the third world will revolt because they'll need some of this declining energy just to survive. I think the education we need to put in place for, again, particularly for Americans, is we have to be conscious and aware of the cost of energy of absolutely everything we do. We cannot go forward as long as we're living with false information and false assumptions. Currently, most Americans will not accept at all that they have to make fundamental changes in their lifestyle. One set are concerned with what I call techno-clean, which is the idea of taking all the CO2 out of the dirty fossil fuels and dumping it into the ground and the ocean as a gift to our grandchildren. The second set are the techno-green people who believe this is a trivial problem and all we have to do is put some solar cells in the deserts and put some wind tunnels or wind turbines up into North Dakota. None of that's true, and until we can actually understand how each of us is using energy and start to work on that problem, there will be no progress. In the 3 years that I've been involved with it, we've probably trained somewhere between 6,000 and 12,000 people across the world. I don't think that's been useful on a mass basis, and what I think we're doing is training the leadership of the type of leaders and the kind of leaders that we're going to have to deal with the problem. In terms of mass education, I think that the mass education there will be great insights just depending on how fast and how high the price of gas arises. When it hits you in the pocketbook, then you get understanding.